For December 2025, I have decided to do a compilation of quotes and ideas from various lectures on giving and receiving. I couldn't find a single lecture that really exemplified the direction I wanted to explore, so it's bits and pieces. In this first week, what I wanted to focus on was the problem with giving and receiving. For instance, that resentful giving will deplete us rather than feel like it enlivens us. Whereas real giving, a flow of giving, both gives and receives, which is the thrust. Um, there are in society, we are looking more and more deeply than we used to. We're looking at who we are in our true selves rather than how well we're able to conform to society norms. And in that process, we're discovering gender differences, we're discovering energetic differences, we're discovering mental differences, ability differences. We're finding that it's very complicated. We're looking at spectrum rather than this or that. Instead of saying that you're either mentally ill or you're mentally healthy, we're seeing this as a continuum where you move back and forth on a line and sometimes dip into what is termed mental illness, but that's just an exaggeration of qualities that are along that normal people or most people, if not all people, possess some aspect of. When we look at this from that perspective, when we try to see people for who they actually are, rather than so we can categorize them, we grow up knowing about this categorization. We grow up knowing that we're going to be judged based on whether we're good or bad, whether we're generous or stingy. All these subcategories, we're aware of them. We don't have to be told, we know about them. We can feel it, we can intuit it. And the reason we feel this is we fight that battle inside ourselves. That there's a balance, a dynamic balance that is changing all the time. Society can't deal with that, so they say, stay over here, or you'll descend over here. Stay a giving person, or you'll be a taker. Instead of understanding that it goes back and forth, depending on circumstances and need. We judge that if somebody is taking, they'll take forever or they'll take too much. Somehow we don't think that giving can be done too much. And that's what creates a resentful giving, when it's not balanced and when people are perfectly happy to allow us to give and don't support us in creating a healthy balance. So what we do is we mask our real feelings, and masking is a term that's talked about more often now, that we mask our real feelings and so that we don't talk about it and we don't admit it. And if you don't talk about it, you don't tend to verbalize it, so you don't get words associated with a lot of subtle feelings. And so things they stay unexamined. So it's really complicated. And we have to start someplace. But if we start to unmask and we're afraid that what we're going to find is an unloving person, a taker rather than a giver, we're not going to do it. We're not going to open ourselves up to condemnation. We're not going to enter an area that we don't understand. We're not going to explore something that could explode and hurt things that we value in life, relationships that we value. So that there tends to be a push to be a giver, not a taker. And this builds resentment because it's not in the flow. It's not where we necessarily need to be or want to be in that particular moment. Now, this ties in with the compulsion to give and the guilt for receiving. I speak a lot about seeing things from a larger perspective. Larger perspective. Society does not want takers. Society wants givers. It's easier to manage society if everyone is contributing. And then there are a few problems here and there, and we can handle that. So that society has a vested interest in encouraging its members to be of a giving nature. so that we contribute to the benefit of the whole. So this means that our compulsion to give is used by other forces, people in power, including authority figures, parents, families. It's easier to run a family if you don't have to ask for something all the time, if someone is always willing to give or give generously, instead of having to get them to give generously. So there tends to be a pressure to give that we feel as a compulsion. I must give to be loved and approved of. And then conversely, there's guilt for receiving, because if I receive, I could become a taker. And I know that takers are not admired or approved of, and they're bad. And so I can't go there. So anything I receive, I'm counting. I'm counting and I'm adjusting. I'm trying to figure it out. With giving, all I have to do is keep giving and keep giving. Neither one of these is healthy or natural or necessarily to our nature. So why are we fighting back and forth on this? There's an inner knowing, which is why this is a spiritual study and not psychological. There's an inner knowing of our innate imperfection, meaning we are not the highest enlightened angels of all time. We are not the top of the spiritual food chain, or we haven't ascended. We're nowhere near perfect. And there's an inner knowing of this. This planet is a planet of duality. It specializes in strengthening dualistic concepts. So if you're not good, if you're not enlightened, if you're not perfect, you're bad. That's what we do here. We analyze, we discern, we figure out, and we find the duality so that we can win, so we can succeed, so we can get, so that we can be happy, so that we can not worry and not fear. So we have an inner knowing that we're imperfect. And if we're imperfect, our love is imperfect. And if you know something is imperfect, you try harder. And once again, in the duality, if giving is the good thing, then the other thing, anything other, is bad and must be avoided at all cost. And this creates anxiety and fear, and this feeds into compulsion and guilt. So the next aspect of this particular section was that when we speak the word of self-devaluation, we increase this fear. Now, I used a quote from Patrick Lecture 233, The Power of the Word. And what the gist of Patrick Lecture 233 is that saying words increases their presence. It brings the concept, it brings the energy into the room. So when we speak devaluation, we are putting more weight onto this dualistic bad-good judgment. And so the emphasis is to learn to speak with love, even if you're pointing out a fault or something that needs to be addressed, that can be done with love, rather than separating into good, bad, fix, don't fix. And the last part involves supporting the natural inclination, meaning that there's a natural give and take that human beings have. And as we raise children, hopefully we're trying to develop a good balance within them. But as parents, we want things from them. We want them to fit. We want them to succeed. We want to feel good. We want to feel their approval. So we are not clean in our agendas. We have personal needs that we have, and we're raising kids to meet our needs as well as our perception of society's needs. So we're not trying to raise someone to honor their natural inclination. We're raising them to fit in. And so this loops back to some extent, the only solution a child can come up with is to mask, because it sees this energy of fit, don't fit, be good or you're bad. It sees this and it naturally wants to be good, and it wants to be accepted, and it wants love. And if it can't have it today, it will pretend. And that process starts early. So that's all in this section. Patrick lecture quotes on giving and receiving. In the newsletter, in the monthly newsletter, I also tried to list a whole bunch of websites that I have found that have things for free, to emphasize that there's a lot in the universe that is available to us. Reach out and take what you need, and then see what you are inspired to give. So thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to the lectures. Take care.